Gary Edwards. This is another of my video tutorials on still life photography. I did one a little while ago on photographing food, and it would make a lot of sense for you to watch that one in conjunction with this, or look at both of them, because there's things in the first one that I haven't bothered to repeat in this one because it's just a waste of your time and mine. Right, in that first one I said, and it's very, very true, that one of the things that makes food photography very easy is that food is attractive and it has bright colours. And we use those colours to make the whole thing look even better than it is. Here I've gone the opposite way round, and I've done it deliberately. You might think I'm showing off. I'm not showing off. I'm showing you that even without bright, vibrant colours, we can still get pretty good results as long as the lighting is right. It is really all about lighting. And that's why for this shot I've chosen a brown subject. Well, it will be brown once we've cooked it, against a brown chopping board which is sitting on a brown bit of plastic background. Whether it works or not is for you to judge, but this is the way I've gone about it. Now, before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, it's a very simple subject, and that part of it will be very simple. I do need to tell you about the equipment that you'll need, which is a little bit more complex than we've used in some of the other videos that I've done. Our starting point is a large-ish diffused light source, such as a softbox. Softbox is probably the easiest, isn't it? The one I've used in this video is 1 metre diameter, which frankly is too big for this particular subject. I used it because that's all I've got. I could have managed quite comfortably with a sort of 60 by 60 centimetre or thereabouts. To get around the problem caused by it being too big, I simply moved it further away. That made it effectively smaller, following the inverse square law, and it gave me a higher contrast than if I'd had it much closer. So yes, we do need to arrange it so that it creates diffused specular highlights, i.e. no bright, over bright bits. We don't want over bright specular reflections. But what we do want is to show contrast as well, and this particular subject is not something that's very shiny, so we don't even need a big one, let alone want one. Okay, that's that bit. The other thing that you absolutely must have is some kind of light that concentrates the light into a small defined area. Now, my tool of choice is a honeycomb, and this particular honeycomb, as I mentioned before, is very special. It's much bigger, much thicker and much finer than anything that you can get today. And I've used it because I've got it. You can't get one of these. The best you can get today is this one, which is 10 degrees. And, it does the job. You can use this. So you'll need a honeycomb. You could have a focusing spot lamp, but a honeycomb is much cheaper and a lot less complicated to use. So yeah, you're going to need a honeycomb. Now, just to make matters complicated, ideally you need 2 honeycombs. The second honeycomb here is this one, which is homemade, has straws, and it works absolutely brilliantly. The honeycomb won't be a problem for you, but if you don't have an extra light to put it on, that will be a challenge that you've got to find a way of overcoming. Don't worry about it. I happen to have enough lights. If you don't, there are a couple of ways around it. Number one method of getting around it is to use one of these little mirrors. It's a shaving mirror. I've never used it as a shaving mirror. I use it to direct light, say from this one, back to the blind side of the subject. You need to light, with this particular setup, you need to light the blind side that isn't receiving light elsewhere. There is a way around it. You can simply arrange the setup differently so that that unlit bit isn't showing. But if you do want to show it, you need to light it, and a mirror does the job perfectly well. Of course, you may not have a mirror either. You can get sheet of very thin plastic mirror material from places like eBay, and they do the job perfectly well. They come in a roll, different size rolls, simply cut them with a pair of scissors and you've got a mirror. They're brilliant. If you haven't even got that, have you got one of these small LED torches? Because they can also be used to light the end of the subject. If you've got a second light, but you haven't got a second honeycomb, or even a first honeycomb, then you can sort of get around it, because photography, particularly sort of this type of photography, is all about bodging. The one thing that we don't need to do is to spend a lot of money on gear. And one way around it is simply to use the smallest light source you've got, which may well be a standard reflector, and then we just create flags in front of the light to block out the light, to stop it going where we don't want it to go. You can use anything for this, you know, bits of black card or books. The perfect material for this is called black wrap or cinefoil. It's very easy to use, it lasts forever, and it is the perfect material for blocking light. You can incidentally also use this, of course, to reduce the effective size of your softbox if it's too big. So this is our starting point, no lighting at all, and you'll have noticed that it's raw, in fact it's frozen. With food photography, we never set up on the finished item. Reasons for this are set out in the previous video. And we never add the lighting until we've got the camera position right. So basically we just stick it in front of the camera, arrange it as we think it should look, get the camera position where we're happy with it, and then we add the lighting, and the lighting is dependent on the camera position, height, angle and everything else. So this is our starting point. And now I add a softbox, some adjustment required to get the angle right, the distance right and what have you. And here's a still photo showing the lighting we've got so far. And it's creating the right amount, I think, of diffuse light and shadow. We don't want the lighting too flat. We want to use this lighting just as the basic light that lights the whole scene, and we worry about the bits it doesn't do a bit later on. Once that's done, we cook it. So here I'm just adding a couple of markers to make sure that I get the cooked subject in exactly the right place. This is a small point, but quite an important one. And here it is cooked. You might say burnt, and you might be right, but I'm a photographer, not a cook. So we get that in position, and now we can think about a second light. There are in fact two baguettes, as you can see, and I've arranged it here so that we're showing sort of 1.5, and we always spread a few crumbs around to make it look genuine. They normally occur naturally anyway, but if they don't, we just add a few. And this is just sort of basic food photography. And this is the result we got so far. It's not looking too bad, I think, but it does need at least one more light. So here's a honeycomb, fiddle around with it, get it absolutely perfect, and then we can take a shot. And of course, with all photography, we do one light at a time. So here's a still shot with the softbox turned off so that we can properly see the effect of this honeycombed light, because that's the only light there is. And we need a second light, and here of course I've used my extra honeycomb. This is the homemade one that I've written about. Here's a still shot of it, again with all other lights turned off. So as I explained earlier, if you don't have an extra light, then a mirror works just as well. It's just a little bit more fiddly. And here we are, this is the final shot. Now there's no post-processing work whatever done on any images that I use in tutorials. These are straight out the camera, and only this one has actually been cropped. So have a go yourself. It's a straightforward subject, it's an interesting subject, and the whole idea of doing it is not to get a finished result, it's to get the learning experience to add tools to your lighting toolbox.